Hello and welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It is How to Tarot Tuesday. And what that is every week I post here a video that talks about one of the 78 card tarot. The beginning of the video, we talk about the meaning and the symbolism in the card. And then the second half of the video, you, the viewer, get to choose from one of 3 tarot decks. And we go ahead and do a brief spread to see how that card, the card in question, is manifesting in your life. The 3 decks are chosen based on the imagery. The first deck is always the Rider-Waite-Smith. And then the second and third decks are decks that I choose to best describe the card that we're talking about. If you ever want to skip the How to Tarot part, you can go straight to the reading. All of the timestamps are listed in the description box below, as are the names and the authors of the decks that I use. Today I will be clarifying I always use an oracle deck, and today the oracle deck is the Soul Coaching Oracle by Sonia Chiquette. And I was just drawn to use that, and when we get to the deck description, I will go ahead and elaborate on why we did that. But today, just to jump right in, we have a very cool card. Today we are talking about the Four of Cups. When you look at the Four of Cups, you see a person, a man, sitting under a tree. And he, just like the Ace of Cups, there's a cup that's being handed to him from a cloud. It's almost like he's being handed a cup out of the ether, right? And then the sky is very clear, and he's under, a green tree, and he's not dressed for winter, and there's green grass, so it looks like a warm climate. It looks like a natural scene. And he's dressed well, right? He's not dressed, he's not impoverished by the way that he's dressed. He's not royalty, but he looks pretty well off, right? You've got shoes on your feet, you've got a nice tunic there. But his expression is one of just kind of staring off into space. In front of him, he has 3 cups, but it really doesn't look like he's looking at the cups. It looks like he's just staring out into space, and he's not seeing what's being offered to him. So the Four of Cups is a very interesting card. If you've watched the How to Tarot, or if you're familiar with tarot, the Ace of Cups, the Two of Cups, and the Three of Cups are all very joyous cards. The cup coming out of the cloud is very similar to the Ace of Cups in that, it's almost like offering someone more, or offering emotional fulfillment or emotional satisfaction, like something new to do and something new to be emotionally happy about. But the person also, with their body language, he's got crossed arms and crossed legs, and he just really looks, he seems to be in a either defiant or a blocked body language, as if he's just not receptive, right? Not receptive. So first and foremost, the Four of Cups means it's about apathy. The Four of Cups means being dissatisfied or kind of in a shell, like, not open to anything that's coming in. So a lot of times it can mean that the first kind of meaning it typically means being kind of self-absorbed. And that can be in a good way or it can be in a bad way. We always look at the surrounding cards. But it basically means that whatever's coming in, you're not receptive to, right? And there might be a reason for that. Maybe something's going on in your life. But a lot of times it just means kind of being like having a dissatisfaction. So being self-absorbed could just be that you're in kind of your own world. Maybe good things are coming in, but you're just kind of concentrating on your own feelings. It's usually a sign that somebody wants to be by themselves. If you see this next to cards of communication, maybe you're reaching out to someone and they're being really withdrawn. If you see this next to a page card, it can be a child who's kind of pulled into themselves. I remember that, and I'll just share this from my experiences growing up. I was kept back in the 6th grade, and I had to retake I was kept back. Yeah, it was 6th grade. I was kept back a grade, and I had to take all of my tests over again, and it really threw me into like a very, very kind of young depression, right? I wasn't interested in social gatherings. I felt so a lot of times, especially with that Ace of Cups, what you see is you see someone looking at 3 cups, which is really, we talked about the 3 last week in the How to Tarot. 3 is about celebration. It's about having a good time. And here you've got a 4th cup being handed to you, and it's almost like you're not interested, right? And I have to admit, I felt that way a whole lot because I was, taking the same tests that I had taken before, and I knew the information, so it wasn't hard for me to retake the grade, but I felt like that was very debilitating, and I was just upset about it. And it's almost like, any of the good that came, any of the fun from, I was with a new class of students and I didn't know anybody. And it was just really kind of like this energy, like, there were new opportunities being handed to me, but I wasn't interested. I could watch people party. That's fine. I didn't care because it was that sense of just, being unaware of what everyone else is doing and just being kind of caught up in your own feelings. A lot of times it can be withholding affection. If you see this card in a romantic spread or next to other court cards, maybe someone's trying to reach out to you. Maybe someone's being real kind to you. I do also I always see this card as being the time out card. Like, say for instance, you get in trouble for something, or you're put in timeout, or you're on what is it when your parents put you on not a timeout, but they why I keep thinking everything in 2020 terms. It's not quarantine when you're grounded, right? Yes, this can definitely be the sign of a grounded teenager, a grounded child, because they have a lot, right? I also see this when you see this next to swords. I also see that as being like someone who's had their technology taken away. Maybe someone got into trouble and had their phone turned off or taken away, and they're just grouchy, right? But in a more adult romantic context, it can be that maybe you're, again, handing a cup, maybe someone, is trying to reach out to you. Maybe your mother's trying to say nice things to you, or your best friend's reaching out to you, and you're just in a funky mood. You can see this card after a long day at work. Maybe you just don't feel like talking, or maybe someone's being real friendly, but you're in a little bit of a grouchy mood, and you'd rather be pulled into yourself than to. I also see this as a little bit of a, like you don't feel like faking it, right? You're not in the mood, right? You're just not in the mood to. I also see this as being like those social situations where you're not in the mood to pretend like you're happy when you're really not. You just want to be alone, so, and you see this card a lot with a lot of water signs, or if you have a moon or Venus in a water placement, because we go through those moods. If you're Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer, I've definitely had those moods, and it's not anybody else's fault. It's just I really just need to be alone, right? Just need to be alone. The tide will ebb eventually, but until that happens, just I'm not going to return the text. I appreciate it, but I'm just. And the other thing is that this is like a message of love from the universe. The other thing is that when you see this, it can be that maybe there's a chance. I do see this in a relationship spread as being like maybe you've had several other relationships that just didn't start off well. Maybe you've been dating and you end up with 3 other friendships, but the other thing I get is that it's almost like this person's reflecting on past relationships, and then when something new and really like wonderful, because again, this is like a present from the universe. When you see something new come in, you almost you don't see it, like you're still reminiscing over the past, right? The other thing I kind of get from that is that maybe I do get a little bit of a spoiled energy with this, and when we get to the middle deck, I'll elaborate. Not in a bad way, but a lot of times it is because these 3 cups are upright, they're not spilled over, and the 3 of Cups is joy, it's celebration, right? So it's quite possible that you have a lot in your life, and and the universe is bringing more, but you're not feeling it. But a lot of times, sometimes that can be, and again, there's a summer scene here. There's no clouds, there's a blue sky. Sometimes that, the universe might be trying to bring a new romantic prospect, but you might still be wanting, maybe the other prospects in your past were more exciting, and you're almost in your own head. You're like, I want what I want. I don't want this new thing you're handing me. It's not as good as what I had before. It's really, and again, with the crossed arms and the crossed ankles, it's a very almost kind of like, pouting kind of stance. It can also be seeing your own point of view. So in that same vein, again, I want things my way. You're and what's being handed to you might be really, really nice. It might be the new start you're looking for. The other thing I kind of get is, a lot of times this can be a gift or a blessing. I see this card sometimes when you're having that day where you're just frustrated. Maybe you're stuck in traffic, and I always call this road signs. Anytime the universe purposely slows you down or throws an obstacle in your path. A lot of times when we're just going, and that's how we are. I can speak for North America. Americans are just we're always on the go. Sometimes we're moving a little too fast. If you've ever seen the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when he goes, life moves pretty fast. If you don't, stop to look around once in a while, you might just miss it. I kind of think of that with the Four of Cups, because there's sometimes when the universe is slowing you down, it's for a purpose, right? So a lot of times maybe you're looking at other relationships or you're looking at other things in your life, and you're just feeling a little bit like, well, things have always been the same. I never get anything new. And the universe is trying to hand you something new, but you're so either disconnected or not paying attention, or you want what you want. The other thing I kind of get is the fact that this cup is coming from a cloud. Also, us as corporeal beings in a human form, a lot of times we think we know what's best for us, right? We meet someone and we say, oh, that's the only one I want. But the universe might know better. Sometimes it is having trust that, what's being handed to us is the right thing. But, you sometimes when you get so narrow focused, you're just really not, paying attention to it. So a lot of times it can be weariness. If you see this next to the Ten of Wands, sometimes you're just worn out. I do see this card when, sometimes when I've had a really long day and I just really, it isn't that I don't want to connect to people emotionally. It's just, I'm just really wicked tired. Sometimes I'll have my mom text me after a long work day when I've talked to people on the phone all day, and I just can't respond. And she can be very warm and welcoming, and I want to talk to her. I haven't talked to her in days, but I'm dragging ass. Pardon my French, but I can't. I'm in my own head, right? So sometimes it could be social isolation, again, just kind of like that grounded energy, maybe the other thing that you see is if somebody's kind of been distant. If you see this around court cards, if you have a teenager, maybe the other thing is if you see this next to cards of loss, there could be someone that really, I noticed that after times of loss, whether that be someone passing or a breakup or sometimes a move or a loss of a job, people get really down in the dumps, and they get into that focus mode. You see them look like this. They're just sitting off in the corner by themselves. And the thing is, they have a lot to be grateful for. And, the other thing I kind of get is that, rejection is God's protection. Either that or, when one door closes, I always joke when I always say, the saying is if one door closes, another door opens. But I always say when one door closes, the universe opens a window for you to jump out of. No, I'm kidding. You always have a parachute. You really do. But you get into that energy where you're just like, oh God, what's next? Especially if you've gone through a little bit of rough waters. And the other thing I get is that you might be a little cautious, and especially in a dating sense, because these are cups, meaning emotions. Maybe you've been dating for a while and someone's like, hey, let me set you up on a blind date, and you're like, oh God, I can't take anymore, right? So a lot of times it can be, like a reassessment or a reevaluation. Again, you might be reflecting on the way that you've done things in the past. Sometimes this can be emotional repetition. Sometimes you're up in your head because you're thinking, okay, I've done this with the first cup, the second cup, the third cup. How am I going to do things different with moving forward? A lot of times it is turning inward, or just, really kind of just being kind of lost in your thoughts. It can be that being just really walled off, or kind of in distraction or distance. It can be a sign of someone who's staying at home all day and, binge watching Netflix. Um, but a lot of times it's just feeling really kind of anticlimactic. Climatic. It's like everything is kind of blah. But the thing that about this card, though, is that you feel like everything is not good enough, but you really do have abundance around you. So it is a little bit of having the gray colored glasses on. It can be distraction, or feeling like something's missing. I do see this as being kind of the midlife crisis card. If you see this in a romantic spread, sometimes it can be that kind of honeymoon is over, like maybe and it can be work related, it can be family related, it could be love related. But maybe at work you got the new job and you were so excited about it, but then as you go along, you're like, God, this is just, it feels like just more of the same. I always think of same soup, different bowl, right? So, sometimes this can be, feeling like you're just doing the same thing over and over again. The other thing is that being in that lost of thought, you're really, a lot of times it's going within, to try to decide what's making you happy and what's not making you happy. So that can be midlife crisis. It could be you feeling just, sometimes it can be those phases, those milestones in a relationship when you've been married for so long. There's a saying, they call it the 7-year itch. When you've been with someone 7 years, that seems to be right around. Also, you kind of see someone's true colors after about 2 years. So even if you're madly in love, the first 6 months, after about 2 years, you really do kind of settle in and start getting into the kind of the doldrums of everyday living. But so in that sense, it can also be feeling like it's, feeling like you're in a rut. The other thing is that it can be after major life changes. Sometimes you'll see this card if you're a woman. Sometimes this can be after a baby's born and you're feeling kind of like, because believe it, when a baby is little, that's a lot of repetition. I remember my sister talking about how when both my nieces were born, they were wonderful blessings to our family. But that first 6 months, you're just, you're eating, sleeping, changing diapers, doing laundry. It is kind of like the dirge. And so, but this card is really talking about like a new experience coming in and you just not being ready for it because you're feeling like a disconnect, right? Um, it just kind of feels like, emotionally you're just retracted. You're not really engaging. Um, you know, you almost, sometimes this can be a time of midlife crisis where this person's really focusing about their desires, because the other thing is that you've got a cup from the universe being handed to you, and it's almost like this person's deciding whether or not they want it, right? Whether or not they want it. So a lot of times that can be, I do see this as being kind of like that card that's just, you're just not happy, right? You're not happy. The other thing is that sometimes it can be you saying, okay, I've come so far in my life. I used to be happy and now I'm not. You know, what changed? What changed? And how can you find yourself again, right? Sometimes this self-reflection is really about, you know, sometimes it can be meditating or dreaming or, you know, pausing to reflect about how far you've come and what you want to continue doing. Because again, you know, this is the four, and the four are the cornerstones, right? Four means stability, like the four legs of a table. So, you know, you've been through the ace, which is an emotional beginning. You've been through the two, which is emotional balance or the start of love. And then you've been through the three, which is about celebration and, you know, like, it can be the birth of a child, right? So by the time you get to the four, it's almost like, okay, gosh, I've had these emotional experiences. You're looking at the three cups going, okay, well, I've come this far. You know, am I still myself, right? You know, what do I bring to this equation because I've come this far? Sometimes it can be feeling jaded, you know. Sometimes, you know, again, with those three cups, maybe you have been through a few. This isn't your first rodeo in love, and, you know, a lot of times it can just be feeling a lack of motivation. You know, you're just, maybe again, if this is in a work context, you're just not feeling like really like, you're feeling blah. And, you know, maybe you are being offered new opportunities to continue forward, but, you know, here, this expression on their face really feels like they're just not ready for it anymore. So sometimes you could be fed up with the situation, you know, that you really just don't care about anything. It's kind of the you show, right? The other thing that I kind of get, and with the three cups being there, is quite possibly this can be in a family context, where it could be a husband or wife, it could be your spouse, it could be your children, where someone just is being very disconnected. They're thinking about themselves and not anyone else, right? A lot of times in situations, it can represent that you're trying to do something nice for someone, and they seem like they don't appreciate it because they're just, you know, they're not present. The other thing that you get is that sometimes you can feel like, you know, with this person looking at three cups and the cup that's being offered to them, it almost looks like two sides. And remember, the three is about celebration. Sometimes it can be a little bit of being jaded or feeling jealous or just feeling like the grass is greener. Like maybe if you're at a different stage in your life, like maybe you're retired and you see someone getting married or getting a house for the first time. You're at a different phase in your life and you've got a lot going on for you, but you look at this other person like they have more. The other thing is that this could definitely be that, you know, and again, in a relationship sense, maybe you're talking to someone and they're just not reciprocating because they might have their mind on other prospects, or the other thing that I kind of get is that they might be having their mind on the past, right? If they were either hurt in the past or, you know, they were happy in the past, they're just looking at the cup that you're offering them and looking at it like it just doesn't compete, right? It's not as good as what they had or not as good as what they want. Now, you know, the other thing is that it can be, I never promised you a rose garden, which is it's an expression of being like, you know, again, after going through the ace, the two, and the three, maybe you have gotten into a stage of either married or family life that I had mentioned in a previous video that talked about how my mom one time alluded, you know, my mom and my dad got married pretty young. They were 20, 22. And you know, in at the time they got married, that was very common. It was not unheard of. The modern generation is waiting to get married. You know, and I do think that's a healthy habit because, you know, you kind of know yourself once you've. I do kind of get that energy from this. It's almost like maybe if you did get married kind of young and you didn't get a chance to really have enough time to discover yourself before you became a partner and became a parent. So here it is. It's a little bit of feeling like a little bit cheated, you know? Again, it's a midlife crisis card. Maybe you feel like the other thing that I kind of get is that maybe in the Zoom, you know, I talk about the Zoom of falling in love, you know, the endorphins are raging. You love this person. You think, I'll give anything for you. You get married, and then about 2 to 3 years down the line, you realize what all that marriage entails, right? It's not easy, and people don't show their best qualities up. People show their best qualities up front. I don't. I always I have a bad habit of I almost like to troubleshoot the problems, and maybe that's probably one of my problems with dating. But I think that's helpful because I think, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's the way that you court. It's the way that you date, right? Is you want to show all of your, you wear makeup to show all of your best features to someone, right? When you're dating. And then you get married, and I'm sorry, circling back, sorry to gloss over it. My mom had once alluded that, my mom and my dad were very young when they got married, but she even said, there are danger signs when you get married because everybody has their pros and their cons, but you never, it isn't till you actually have to lean on that. And again, it's the four corners of a house, right? The four corners, the four legs of a table. There's a lot of pressure that comes on the four, right? It's about stability. Because when you think about it, okay, you're a teenager and dating someone, then you get married and have kids. Those kids are leaning on their mother and their father. Their mother and father have to have jobs, have to support the family. You have to communicate with each other. You have to do the dishes, do the laundry, deal with the spit up from your little one, just sleeping and pooping all day long. It's not easy. It's not easy. And the thing is, my mom had once said, yes, there are differences between people. Men and women will always be different. But you don't really put it's almost like that table, how wobbly the legs are, you don't realize until you put weight on that table, right? And the weight is the mortgage needing to be paid. The mortgage, the weight is needing to keep your job, needing to make enough money to live comfortably, to support your family, coming home and communicating. So the Four of Cups really is about like feeling a little bit of disillusionment. Maybe you got married young, or maybe you just felt like, okay, I didn't get a chance to really explore my own personality before I got into commitments. And you're looking at that Three of Cups, and even though you have a lot, maybe your spouse is not perfect, but they're a good person, and you've got children, which are always a blessing, and you have a roof over your head. But again, it's almost like being like, well, yeah, I've got all this, but look at the dude next door. He's single, he's got a Porsche, he's got money. I'd have money, if I didn't have to pay a mortgage, right? It's kind of like that energy. You're blessed, but the grass is greener, But just bear in mind, the grass is green where you water it, The other thing is that, yes, the divorce rate is still pretty high. I think it's still more than 50%. Human beings are, we have a myriad of different temperaments. But sometimes, even if you know everything about your partner before you marry them or get into a commitment with them, the true colors don't come until you put weight on the table, until you put weight on those legs. So sometimes, but when I see this card, sometimes I do kind of sense that, maybe you felt like you didn't know what you were getting into before you got into it. But if you said I do, and you got married, or you got into whatever, you took the new position, you agreed or committed to that. So but it is a little bit of apathy of being like, well, gosh, why do I have to do all this? You're continuing down a path, and it's almost like you're going within to make sure that you could be lost in reverie about how things were before you started on married life, started on this career, started down this path. And it just really makes you reflect. But one thing I want to reiterate is the life that you have is pretty darn good. What's being offered to you is really nice too. Now, the second card, I went with the Anna K Tarot, and I always knew this was going to be in the How to Tarot. But you see a man sitting at the head of the table, and when you look at his expression, it's very similar. I think she did a great job in recreating this. He's got the same crossed arms, and the same furrowed brow, and he looks like he's looking straight at the camera, right? Now, one thing that you see is you've got three servants. It looks like three servants really doting on him, right? They're bringing him wine, they're bringing him, stew, they're bringing him fresh bread, and, they're just, putting everything in front of him, right? So what I'm kind of getting here is, and what you see is there's already 3 cups on the table, and the person walking in front of them is bringing them another cup. So the first thing that I kind of get with this, and I'll throw out the first meaning and then I'll go into the romantic meaning. But the first meaning I get from this is having options, but feeling just kind of like indifferent to all of them. So I do read this card as being, and I read all anytime the Four of Cups comes up, I read it as being kind of like um, I read it as the toddler being offered food, and I don't mean this in a mean way. But have you ever, if you've raised a child, you know that they go through that stage where many children do, not all children do. I'm not going to stereotype. It's not a blanket rule. Every child has their own temperament, you know. But I've heard from a lot of parents, and I have friends who have little ones, who say that inevitably, just like the terrible twos, that there's some kind of stage in development where a child learns that they have choice when it comes to their food. And it was funny. My mom once told me I'm a Libra child, and she said that I went. It wasn't so much that I was picky about food. It's just that I'd get overwhelmed with the choices, which is such a Libra thing because indecision. You know, what do I eat first, and what order do I eat it? And she learned really quick. And it's funny. My mom studied astrology when she was young too, and it worked. She read what was it? She read Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, and that's a great book. Love Signs is my favorite. Love Signs is the first book I ever read as in astrology, and I was 14. But Sun Signs is really good, and Sun Signs is broken down amongst men. You know, like it has chapters, so it'll say Libra man, Libra woman, Libra employer, Libra employee, and it does have Libra child. And my mom read Libra child for me, and she said what I had to do is I had to offer your food in proportions and one at a time. If she put the chicken, the corn, and the dessert all in front of me, I wouldn't know what to go first, what to eat first. But if she put the chicken first and then the vegetable and then the dessert, I would eat it all up and be good and be happy. So, but here with the Four of Cups, what I see is that what I've heard, and sans being a Libra child and meeting it, linearly, um, I've heard a lot of children get picky about what they eat. And actually, I've heard this in adult life too. Talking to my mom, talking to my sister, she has a husband and two daughters. If you come across a night where nobody, you make something in the Instapot and nobody wants what you made, or one person wants what you made, but one person wants pizza, another person wants chicken, however you do it. But the Four of Cups, I kind of think of being that toddler that you offer them chicken nuggets and they don't want it. You offer them, a corn dog, they don't want it. You offer them something else, and the funny thing is, everything you're offering them is good, right? It's not like it's another cup, right? But they keep turning their nose up at it, like, nope, I don't want that. Nope, I'm not in the mood for that. And that's really what it's about, right? I'm not in the mood for this. And look at this. That's a spread, right? You're being offered all of these good things, right? So a lot of times I do see it as being kind of like that, being a little bit stubborn in the sense that, you're being offered a lot of good things, but it's almost like you are getting a little overwhelmed, or you just don't feel like it, right? You're being offered really good things. The other thing that I get is that is where you can get into a little bit of a spoiled child vibe with the Four of Cups, right? It's not a bad thing. You're entitled to being moody, right? You're entitled to say, I'm not interested. But what you have, I always think of that lyric from the song Desperado by the Eagles, where he's like, there's been many fine things laid upon your table, but you only want the ones that you can't get. So many fine things have been presented to you. The other thing that you kind of see is, depending on surrounding cards, the universe might be cautioning you that you're at a time of excess right now. So the other thing is, if you see this like Four of Cups next to the Seven of Cups, sometimes you might have a lot of options. And the options are all good, right? And it being cups, it could definitely be relationships. It could be that thing where, it could be that one guy or one girl's calling you, texting you, but you're already talking to three other ones, and you're just kind of like, yeah, all right, this is nice. Go ahead. Yeah, I might get back to you. I might, you know. It's all about you. It's the you show. The other thing is that it could quite honestly be someone who's being a little indecisive because they have too many like primo options, but I do see it as someone being a little spoiled too. So the universe might be warning you, okay, yeah, the other thing is that it might be a tough choice. I do see this card come up a little bit sometimes when I see this card come up sometimes. It could be legitimately when you're trying to feed your family and no one's agreeing on what they want. The other thing is if you are dealing with a Libra spouse or child, if you are asking them about what to eat for dinner or what they want, this could be anything from buying a car to buying a house. I do see that sometimes this can be like maybe you're house hunting or maybe you're looking to buy a new car. The other thing is maybe you're looking for a new job. Anything that's emotionally based, because it could be that, you look at this house and you're like, well, it doesn't have the finished basement and I wanted the finished basement, right? Or you look at the kitchen and you're like, oh my god, they've got baseboard heaters. I'm not paying, $350,000 for that. It can be that, right? It's a beautiful house, it's a good deal, the schools are great, it's in the area that you want, but should I hold out? It's like the you show, right? The other thing, circling back, sorry, if you are dealing with a Libra, sometimes if they've had, like, ask them what they don't want. That's a good way to deal with this card. Say, like, for instance, if someone says, oh, okay, hey, honey, I want pasta for dinner. How do you feel about that? And, okay, what don't you want? Well, I had pizza for lunch. I don't want pizza. Okay, we're ruling out pizza. How about, Chinese, sandwiches, pasta, salads. If you kind of rule it out, because this person, what it is it's definitely options, and it might be a little bit of overwhelm. It's kind of like a mix of overwhelm and being a little bit dissatisfied. The other thing is that, it could just be taking time to reflect, because of everything. Because again, it is a little bit of everything's on the table. The other thing I kind of get with this card is maybe, again, like house hunting or car hunting, maybe you need to buy a new car. Either that or it can be everyday little things. Like I remember when I needed to have my table refinished, and this is a family heirloom. I was very picky about it. I was like, okay, I need to find someplace that's local, that's not too outrageous with the price, who's going to do the job that I want, the way that I want it to, and they're going to use all natural materials, right? No acids, right? It's almost kind of like that. You are kind of, being a little bit like, okay, well, but a lot of times it is just about being in your own head. Now, the last deck I went with is this is the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshitani. And this is a really beautiful story. All of these cards, this tarot deck, I did a separate flip through here on my channel if you ever want to check it out. But this is the story of the Nightingale. And what it is it's about an emperor, I think in China. And what it is that there was a fable, and this is by Hans Christian Andersen. And Hans Christian Andersen is very infamous. He's written quite a few kind of sad stories. He wrote The Little Mermaid, and the Disney version that you see is not the same. The real Little Mermaid that he wrote actually had a pretty sad, but a little bit of a martyr kind of ending. And then he also wrote the story of the little matchstick girl. But this is called the Nightingale. And what it is there's an emperor in China who's kind of obsessed with living forever, right? And there's a story that there's a nightingale, that the nightingale's song brings you back to life. So what the emperor does is he starts paying money. He pays money to people to create mechanical nightingales, right? Made of gold and jewels. So he spends his whole life kind of chasing immortality. And this is really interesting. I think really that this is based after the, I'll put the name on the screen. If you've ever, it's a real not architectural, someone who studies the remains of those who've passed. I'm sorry, it's been a long day. I'm a little tired. Um, Archaeological. It's an archaeological truism that if you've ever seen the story of the terracotta warriors, there was an emperor who wanted to live forever. He wanted to live forever. And of course, he tried all the elixirs, he tried all these things to try to extend his life. And he couldn't live forever. He never found the fountain of youth. But he did create his army in terracotta, and he actually, housed it almost like the pharaohs of Egypt. He buried this entire army underground, and he had rivers of mercury. He had like everyone, like right down to stable boys and stable girls. And it's actually interesting. I had the great pleasure of driving to Virginia, to the Museum of Virginia Museum of Art, to see the terracotta warriors when they were here, and it was an incredible exhibit. But I think Hans Christian Andersen might have gotten the inspiration from that real life. The terracotta store. But the interesting thing is that the terracotta warriors were not discovered. Like the actual statues were not discovered until the 70s. But I think it was probably pretty well known. The emperor, he lived years, decades, millennia before. But the emperor pays all of his jewelsmiths to create synthetic nightingales, right? And what you see here is you see three nightingales, right? And he spends his life like, fascinated with the bird. But what's interesting is the real nightingale whose song can bring you to life, is sitting right outside his window, who shows up at night, right? What's beautiful is that you see like golden and you see ruby encrusted cups here, but the real nightingale is sitting on a simple cup, right? Right outside the window. And what I think is fascinating about this is it almost reminds me of that Indiana Jones movie. You know how when he's looking for the Grail of Christ, and there were so many cups to choose from, and they were all made of gold, and the knight who lived. There was the Knights Templar who guarded the cup. He was a knight who had lived for thousands of years. He was kept alive by guarding the Grail. Um, and what Indiana Jones does is he ends up choosing the simple cup. He knows that, what would be a cup of a carpenter? It wouldn't be golden. It wouldn't be ruby encrusted, right? It's the simple cup. Now, just one other side story is that if you ever read the history of Hans Christian Andersen, there was a Swedish singer named Jenny Lind. And the name might sound familiar because if you've ever seen the movie The Greatest Showman, she was referred to as the Swedish Nightingale. She had apparently a very beautiful voice, and she did tour with P.T. Barnum. The movie Greatest Showman was embellished to make it sound like that her and Barnum had a romantic relationship, or that he was interested in her. And the truth is, she did have a lot of suitors. She had a lot of suitors. She did eventually marry kind of later on in life, and she was very happy with her husband. She loved her husband very dearly. But Jenny Lind was also very good friends with Hans Christian Andersen. And they were pen pals, and they exchanged letters. And the interesting thing is, I think Hans Christian Andersen there's a lot of rumor that he based this story on her, because in the end of the story of the emperor, he spends his life trying to recreate the nightingale using gold and rubies, and all of these synthetic birds never gave him what the real nightingale did. And the real nightingale came to him at the end of his life in the middle of the night and sang its song and brought him back to life. Now, the interesting thing is Hans Christian Andersen and Jenny Lynn were apparently really good friends. They were allegedly very good friends. But apparently there were a few letters that were found that really expressed more of a loving, kind of like an intimate side on his part. But she kind of shut it down and said, no, I just see you as my friend. We're not, they're not lovers or anything. But it is rumored that this fairy tale or this story was based on her because she was known as the Swedish nightingale. Like her voice and her song brought people back to life. And maybe her friendship or her voice or her companionship did that for him in his life. Maybe I almost think of it as like an analogy where maybe, he was later, this was one of his later stories, if I remember correctly. But what it is it does talk about that. And I think about that, people look at the gilded, right? So when I see this card, I really see someone who's, and again, it kind of plays into the Rider Waite, you want to choose the cup. The cup that's being handed to you might look simple. It might not look, there's one of my romance angel cards say, your love or the person you're meant to be with might not look like what you expect, right? And it's about having core values. But I do see this card as being like somebody who's looking at all their life opportunities, and again, it's kind of the same thing. Oh, well, I have these 3 cups ahead of me. I've got everything that I want. I don't need this simple cup. But this simple cup is what's going to give you a long, happy life. Right? It's going to give you a long, happy life. And so a lot of times it is, I do see this in a romance read as being kind of like, you might be dating or might be looking at other people that might be more flashy, might have more money, but the perfect partner for you or someone that the cup that the universe is handing to you, like, this is your ace, this is what you want to go with, you might be ignoring because you might be looking at the other flashier things. So one other way I kind of read the 4 of Cups is not all that glitters is gold, right? It might really be gold, but it might be superficial in the sense. So the other thing that I kind of get, especially with this card, because the other two, the way the last card is different is that the other 2 cards seem like they're ignoring, they are more preoccupied with 3 cups, but it's almost like saying, okay, your true happiness might be right there in front of you and the universe might be handing it to you, but you're ignoring it, right? So a lot of times it is, when it comes to situations or advice, there might be an opportunity. So the last meeting really can be a missed opportunity, right? It could be that the universe was giving you exactly what you needed, but you were just withdrawn in your own head and didn't see it. Last thing that I kind of think of, especially when it comes to situations, is that I think it usually means that the solution, like if you're faced with a problem or if you are feeling like, midlife crisis, like all up in your head and it's all about you, the solution is simple, it's not easy. And those 2 words have separate definitions. Simple means that you follow the steps and it'll happen, right? And that's what you see with that simple cup, right? You don't see a gilded cup, you see a clay cup there. So it's simple, it's not complex, but it's not easy though. You just follow the cup, right? But the other thing is that it can be a situation that maybe you just got so much else going on in your life that you don't dedicate the time that you're supposed to. But when it comes to situations, it just usually means boredom. It means lethargy. It means, being tired or a little bit, doing the dance with depression. You can be rejecting help that's being offered to you. It can be an emotional hand that's being reached out. It can be a romantic suitor that is really, really nice and kind, but you're just not giving them the time of day. You can be feeling a little demoralized, or you might just again be feeling just kind of like the dirge, like same soup every day, same soup, different bowl. It can be some sense of emptiness, It could be, it is asking the question, are you cutting yourself off from people unnecessarily? It can be a child or a spouse that's really distant and kind of, just emotionally withdrawn. The other thing that it can be is that maybe it is asking you to take time to meditate, or it can be someone who's just being a little emotionally picky about things. Now, and if you see this next to the Hermit card, it can be someone who's doing it kind of to an extreme. Now, when you see the card in reverse, it can, any card in reverse either means that the energy is going away or it's intensifying in a negative way. So the first meaning is actually really good. It usually means it's the end of discontent. If you have been feeling like you've been reflecting on the past or you've been feeling disconnected, it means you're finally coming back around. The sun is coming back out again. You can start connecting with people. Maybe it means that you start returning those text messages or you give someone a call. You can be accepting a social invitation. That you've got a new sense of motivation, or that you're socializing more. It can mean that you're ready for a new challenge. You're actually engaging. You're accepting the cup that's being handed to you, that you're coming out of your shell. You're not withdrawn. And the other thing is you're no longer in a rut, A lot of times the Four of Cups in reverse, especially if it's next to an ace of some sort, can mean that you've had the spark of something new. Because I can promise you, when things feel really rudimentary or feel really repetitive, doing something new is the best way to break out of those kind of energies. It can mean that you've started some kind of innovative new project, or that you're either that, or if it is a situation where you didn't know what to choose, maybe you took some time and said, okay, well, let's go with this house, or okay, let's pick this car, or you finally, the mood has passed. Now, the negative sense with the Four in the reverse can be, sometimes it can be it can be a real extreme self-pity. It can be, excess or fatalism. Again, maybe you have so much opportunity, but I see the Four in reverse in an extreme, especially if it's next to, like, sometimes you can be being drama about something. It could be that you have every opportunity in the world. A lot of times the Four of Cups in reverse in the negative sense can be someone who has it all. Like, you have nothing to be unhappy about, but you're still whining and crying and feeling like you don't have anything. Sometimes it can be like you see that a little bit with celebrities who have a lot of money. They don't have any privacy, and they just feel real empty inside. And again, it's almost like that extreme emptiness, like you're searching and you're not coming up with the answer. So, and it's making you feel really lost. It's spiraling you worse into that antisocial kind of depression and exhaustion. It can definitely, in the reverse, mean lost opportunities, like you just waited too long and the opportunity passed you by. So that can be job related, it can be money related, it can be family related. I do see the Four in reverse being that cat's in the cradle. Maybe you had opportunities to spend with your family and you just waited too long. So now you are getting a divorce, or your kids are grown and you don't have that opportunity anymore. Sometimes it could just be a lack of enjoyment, like you're trying to have fun, but you're just not. Again, you're looking at the Three Cups but you're just feeling out of it. But a lot of times, when it comes to situations in the positive sense, it's like things are finally, you're breaking out of the doldrums and things are getting better and you feel refreshed. Sometimes life is again, feeling satisfying again instead of just being boredom. It can be, sometimes the Four in reverse can be that you accepted an invitation to a party. Sometimes it can be like that break, like something happened that just made you feel a lot better, made you feel like there's meaning in life again. And the other thing is, when you see the Four of Cups in reverse, the first thing that you want to do is think of, what gives my life meaning? That is the solution. And to any type of boredom or apathy, what gives my life meaning? And go ahead and follow something that gives your life meaning, whatever form that takes. The other thing is that sometimes it can be, Four of Cups in reverse can be sometimes that breaking out of the rut means you returning to things that you used to do. Like I loved rollerblading when I was a teenager, and I got a new set of rollerblades a few years ago, and that just totally it plugged me right back into who I was, right? So maybe there was a hobby, maybe there's something that you love to do, and again, it's accepting that cup. Try to revisit. One of my favorite card paper craft artists, her name is Jennifer McGuire. She always says that when she starts running out of ideas, or she starts feeling, because she does paper craft to help her get out of the blues, right? So sometimes maybe if you are feeling like, again, with your job, with your hobby, if you're an artist, maybe you just feel like you're lacking inspiration. The way that you break out of that is by revisiting some of the old ideas that you had, like maybe go back to a previous card, a previous creation that you did, and put a new spin on it. Just take the same idea and evolve it to some kind of higher level. But then in the negative aspect, the 4 in reversed situation wise can be, that maybe you're undergoing a period of real extreme depression where you can't seem to find your light again. And in that situation, it can be a caution card where it's just saying, please don't let self-pity get the best of you. This is definitely a card when it's in the reverse to say gratitude. Gratitude, 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 right? You've got 3 cups. It's a sunny day. There's green grass. You don't have to wear a coat. This is not the 5 of Pentacles. You might be a little lacking on emotional fulfillment right now, but that's not going to last forever. The other thing that it says is that it's a caution card, because when it's in reverse, it says when you appreciate, and it's a law of attraction, when you appreciate what you have, the universe will give you more. And I know that sounds really trite, but it really does work. Just look around you and say, okay, what is it that I appreciate about my life right now? And even though no new things are coming in, or even though you feel like all is lost, or that you're lacking inspiration or a muse, I remember one time I opened my eyes and I thought, God, I love the way the light is shining through my window right now. And it just filled me with appreciation. It really did. How often will you have a room or a house with a window that faces the way it does first thing in the morning, where the light just hits your flowers, hits my house plants, and hits my pictures? And I just love that. And I'm so blessed that I have a window that brings in light like that first thing in the morning. That's all you have to do, right? Because that's the caution of the 4 of Cups in reverse. Don't let self-pity. You have good things in your life. It's just when you have the gray colored glasses on, sometimes it feels rough. But it's definitely, just, and also when you feel like it, engage in connection with others, just try to deal with it. And if it comes down to it, you can always call someone or look for additional help. But all right, guys, so that concludes the how-to part. We're going to go ahead and let you choose your pile. We have 3 piles here. The first deck is the Rider-Waite Smith with the gold stone. The second deck is the Anna Kay with the smoky quartz. The third deck is the Tarot of the Divine and with it we have a beautiful clear quartz. Such a gorgeous stone, and it goes with the deck so well. And to clarify, I was really drawn. I was listening to my inner self told me I should go with these cards, and it's never failed me. So we're going to go with the Soul Coaching cards by Sonia Chiquette. I got this stone at a gem and jewelry show, and it goes with my little bird right there. But I thought this would be a good deck to say, okay, we'll use this as a clarifier to say that cup that's being handed to you, what's that cup, right? So your oracle card will be the cup that's being handed to you. Okay, so I thought that would be a fun way. If you need more time, please pause the video, and I'll see you in a minute. Hi guys, so we're starting with deck number 1, the Rider-Waite Smith. I did pause the video a minute to get a drink of water, and while I was kind of shuffling the cards, 2 cards really flipped out, so I'm going to go ahead and take them for our first position. So current energy. These were kind of side by side. Oh, that's so cool. future energy. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and with our oracle cards, let's see that cup that's being handed to you. What's the cup that's being handed to you? Okay, that's your card. Oh, my life is a miracle. That's awesome, guys. So I see in the past there's a lot of cups and pentacles here. There's cups in both the past, present, and future, and this being a cups card that we're elaborating on. And then we've got just one pentacle, and they're both pages, right? There's a lot of youthful energy here. You might be kind of younger, or someone that you're dealing with might be kind of younger. But basically, in the past, I definitely see, with this being the 4, I think in the past that you felt really confused about something. There was something that you felt really kind of like you weren't sure what the right decision was to make. And the other thing that I kind of get is I feel like you felt a little emotionally overwhelmed. So you kind of walked away from a situation. This could have been a love relationship, or this could be, honestly, this could be family. I'm getting more of a love, like a love partnership kind of feel from it. But what I'm also getting is that I sense in the past that I sense that you felt really strong feelings for someone, but maybe, or someone felt really strong feelings for you. And, but they were the person, I really get this might be your energy, but basically it was, instead, you were feeling a little bit of discontent, either that or you were feeling a lot of churning emotions. The moon is the major arcana. You have 2 major arcanas at the roots here. You have a major arcana at the root of the past, and you have a major arcana at the root of the future, which tells me that these feelings that you have are, this is a lot of emotional withdrawal. And I get the sense that it's possible that I think you were faced with some kind of situation where you were feeling a lot of emotions. I do also get with the moon is ruled by Cancer. It's also a Piscean sign. It's quite possible that maybe in the past you had, and again, it being the 3 of Cups, maybe you had some kind of relationship, the 3 cups being on the ground. Maybe you had some kind of relationship in the past that really overwhelmed you or made you feel a little bit lost. And I'm getting a strong sense that you don't want to engage on with anything until you have your feelings straight. And that's very responsible. That's a good thing. The other thing that I get is that it's quite possible that maybe this was a love relationship that just really put you through the motions, and you got tired of feeling like the moon rules the tides, right? It rules the high tide and the low tide, and they're very, it's a little unsettling, these emotions, right? You see this person, you see that the expression almost looks the same in the moon as the expression on the person. I think in the past, you either had a relationship in the past that did not go well, either that, or this could be a relationship that you learned from family members. Like maybe you observed, kind of like maybe you had a divorce, or just some kind of rocky relationship with your parents, where when something comes along now, it's almost like it throws you have a lot of anxiety or a lot of unsettled emotions. The other thing that I kind of get from this is I'm definitely getting a strong feeling like, and I feel, and I believe me, my heart goes out to you, because I'm sorry guys, when I say this I don't mean it to sound clinical, because I really do feel you. I understand exactly. this could be a situation where you really haven't seen any, you have seen very few successful relationships. And it's one of those things where it's, again, I feel like you're looking at those Three of Cups like you're looking at it like, God, everybody else, like the grass is greener, everybody else gets healthy, normal relationships. And all I get is, relationships that I have to walk away from because they're all screwed up. They make me, I get a sense that in the past, you did the right thing by walking away from relationships, but it's one of those kind of Cupid doll kind of concessions where you're like, I did everything right, but my relationship still failed, or I watched my parents fight all the time and they got divorced. It's almost like you've never gotten a chance to see a healthy relationship, and you've tried to experience a healthy relationship, but all it is a roller coaster of emotions. It churns up feelings from things that you've seen with family, or it churns up feelings where you can't stay. You have to walk away from everything that you invested in because it's either not giving you what you want, or you're feeling all this anxiety and you don't know where this anxiety is coming from. And what I'm kind of getting is, and I'm so sorry, guys, I really think that you haven't seen a whole lot of healthy interaction in the past. Again, you might be a child of divorce, or you might have gone through a few really bad relationships where you just feel like, and believe me, I empathize with you because I've dated for a long time and I know exactly how you feel. It seems like there's no normalcy for you, and it's not a bad thing. It's just like, I do get a sense that you're a strong person. You're a strong person. And it's one of those things that if you're feeling unsettled in a relationship, you'd rather pull within. I do also get the sense that it just makes you a little skeptical, and that's completely understandable. It's like, okay, every single time I've been handed a cup, it has not turned out the way I expected to, and I end up having to regulate it, or and it's just, I've seen other people go through divorces. I get a strong vibe of, I'm not going through that. I've seen it. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. And I think the other thing that I kind of get is, I feel like you've done a lot of the introspection. I'm getting a strong sense that you know yourself, and that's good for you. Good for you. Because this is hard. This is tough. If you grew up in an environment where you just really didn't see healthy communication, or again, it was bickering, it was fighting, it was, I'm kind of getting that your Four of Cups is really like, what am I doing wrong? That's what I keep hearing. What am I doing wrong? Why? You're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. I think the universe is really trying to give you a good cup. I think you've been through a couple crappy cups. And either that, or if you've witnessed it, either in your family or in your dating history, and you did the right thing. The other thing is that red coat. We haven't had a tarot on the Eight of Cups yet, but you see that red coat? That's about action. Blood is about action. It's about what you got to do, right? You've walked away. If something's not healthy, you're not afraid to walk away from it, but it takes its toll, right? It takes its toll on you. It makes you cynical a little bit, not in a bad way. And again, we talked about this being kind of jaded, like, this guy could be, wondering, okay, I've got a cup popping out of a cloud. What's in that? I thank you. Thank you. Next, I've been through enough. So it's okay to be skeptical. It's okay to be skeptical, but I do think that what I'm seeing here is you've got the Page of Pentacles and you got the Six of Cups. So I do think, I'm kind of reading this one of two ways. This could be a history where you've never really seen a whole lot of good come from relationships, and you might have someone who's very genuinely, and this might be a new relationship. Again, two ways I can read it. It's either a new relationship that's just starting out that makes you feel real good, but it's almost like you're skeptical about it because you're like, okay, I've seen, it's almost like you're being real street smart about it. You're like, okay, I've firsthand seen how these things cannot go well. I think you're being cautious because you're just not going to jump into it, but it's almost making you a little resistant, like, okay, almost too good to be true. The other way that I read it is that it's quite possible that this cup that's being offered to you, that someone in your past really made you feel unsettled. The other thing is that someone in your past, maybe you dated someone for a while and you had to walk away from that person because they were triggering you. They were triggering you. I do get a strong sense that they were reminding you of bad relationships that you've witnessed. And I'm sorry to get real. I'm seeing that the moon rules the mother. It also rules deep psychological things that you've learned on a psychological level. So it's quite possible that you might have started dating someone and they started treating you the way that you've seen your mother mistreated, or there's something that's triggering you from a child's perspective, um, or just flat out it didn't make you feel good. It didn't make you feel good. It made you feel emotionally out of sorts. And you were like, okay, I tried to work through that. I'm not going to stay in a situation that makes me feel emotionally crappy. Whether that's my damage, whether that's their damage, don't care. I'm going to just walk away from it. And what I'm seeing that this is either a new person that's coming around that actually looks good, but you've just, again, you've seen so much, you've been raked across the coals a few times. You've witnessed things or experienced things firsthand that's making you very, very cautious. And so someone's coming along with this pentacle, and it looks, you feel, the other thing that I get is that this person makes you feel like a kid, right? This person makes you feel like a kid. Now, the other way that I read it is that it's possible that you started off a relationship with someone and it was a little tumultuous, where again, same scenario. It didn't make you feel good. It made you feel up and down. It made you question yourself. It made you feel like, why am I feeling this? It triggered you a lot. And some deep relationships can do that. But the solid relationships, the ones that you can actually build upon, the one that, the person that you can actually marry, is not going to make you feel that way. And unfortunately, so you might have had to walk away, and that took a lot of strength. It took a lot. That red, that's an Aries color. Can I just say, rock on with your bad self? And it's not to hurt anybody. It's just you sometimes you got to look out for you if someone's not treating you right. And I can just promise you, mutual relationships, quality, healthy relationships, is based on respect. You can read any psychological article, you can talk to anyone who's been in a 30-year marriage. When you respect your partner, when you show them respect, even when they say something dumb, even when you're not having a good day, your partner comes first, and then it's mutual. Your partner comes first with you, and you come first with your partner, and you show each other respect at all times. If someone doesn't respect you, 8 of Cups. All right, I invested this much in you. You're not showing me respect. You're not treating me the way I need to be treated. I'm feeling all this moon energy. Gots to go. Peace out. Throw up the deuces. Now, middle energy, this is either someone new, or it's this person from the past coming back with like some kind of physical gift. And that's where we get into the present energy. And again, the moon could quite potentially be your damage. It's okay though. If you grew up in an environment that didn't really give you the best example on how relationships work, you're going to be triggered. And if someone is adding on top of that, I mean, again, they talk a lot about attachment styles. But attachment styles come in early learning a whole lot, and I'm sorry not to get all psychological with it, but this is the track. And it's completely okay. It's just one of those things where, again, mutual respect. If you have someone who understands that you did not have a good home life growing up, And if you are starting to get sensitive or triggered by something, they're not going to push on that button. They're going to help you. If they don't help you, you don't need that in your life. You go find someone else that's going to give you what you need. So present energy, I think you're either attracting someone, and this is good. This is good. I think this introspection is a good kind. But I do think that you're cautious because either there is a healthy person coming in that you feel like you feel this kind of Six of Cups, like you feel like flowers are blooming out of those cups, right? You know, you feel like someone makes you feel like a kid. Now, the other thing is that the Six of Cups, and especially with these being cups, we've gone from the 8 to the 6 to the 4. What I am kind of getting here, guys, is this could be someone in the past that was triggering you that's coming back around and they have some kind of physical gift. This is not even, and when we get to the future, it might even be an emotional apology. But presently, I think what's happening is that there's either someone, I think in the past you either saw things or experienced things that made you very sensitive, and someone's coming around in a very kind of introductory way, and they're showing you solidarity. They're showing you something solid. This could be the promise of, like, again, something permanent, but this is the beginning stages. There's juveniles in all of these cards. Honestly, the Four of Cups looks pretty young. He looks like he's a teenager, right? This person looks like they're a teenager. These two kids look like kids. And then the Page is a child. The Knight is an early 20s person. You might be younger. Either that or you just feel young. You know, you could be older and in a young kind of... The other thing is it can be a little bit of an emotionally stunted energy, but not in a bad way. You know, this, your upbringing plays a lot into that. It's okay though, you know, it's okay. The other thing is, like, really thinking about it. This is sometimes a good energy because it's like, okay, I got a cup popping out of a cloud. Do I trust that? You know, but I do think the universe is trying to give you happiness. I think it's trying to give you happiness. The other thing that I kind of get is that I think that someone's being very playful with you, and they're trying to offer you something solid, something that you can really lean on. But I think you're emotionally cautious. I think you're wounded, and I'm sorry. I know. I believe me. I feel you. I totally feel you. Where you're looking at that cup like, okay, I've had 3 aces before you. How are you going to be any different? But I do think that this might be the real deal. The other thing that might be is that it could be someone from the past, because the Six of Cups talks about someone from your youth, or when someone who made you feel young might be coming back with kind of a solid offer. But the thing is, this is Page energy. This is a little bit juvenile. It's not a king. It's not a queen. So one other way that I kind of read it is this is someone from your past that's coming around. It's someone, the reason that you're so in your head is because this person really made you feel good, but you had to walk away from them. There was a reason that you had to walk away from them in the past. They weren't treating you right, or they were triggering you, or you just, you know. And what I'm kind of seeing here is that maybe your ex calls you up and gives you flowers, or they say, hey, can we go get coffee, and you're just kind of like, I can't, you know. I feel like you're letting things go to voicemail, or you're letting messages go unread. And I'm seeing it kind of two ways. I'm seeing it might be someone new that's just a little too good to be true, but what they're offering you, they're offering you could bring you happiness. Now, this is someone from the past that's coming in. I think you're just almost kind of a little numb to them because you've been through, you've either been really triggered, or you're just kind of, you're thinking, okay, what do I want? What do I want? You know? And just to throw it out there, it's interesting, the fact that I'm sorry, again, things come in symbols. The fact that I just said throw up the deuces, it kind of makes me think of the Beyonce song, Sorry. Maybe this was someone that you had to walk away from, and they're coming around, and they know that they stir up the feelings, they know they still stir up the feelings, but they're offering you something on a very beginning level. And it's almost like it's not that you're trying to ignore this person, but it's almost again like, do I want to deal with that anymore? And again, this is you pulling into yourself, being like, okay, you're offering me that cup. Is that a cup that I want? Especially if you had to do this. If you had to do this with this person, you best believe you're going to be wondering if that's a cup that you want. The other thing that I kind of get is that I think this person this person does make you feel all of the same things that you feel when they're with you. And I do get the sense that this is a small physical gift. It might be a cup of coffee. They might buy you your favorite flowers, or if you're a guy, I don't know, maybe they do some kind of little thing but I am getting like a physical gift. And we're not too far off from Valentine's Day, so it could be around that time. But I do feel like you're quite honestly a little bit numb. I think you don't want to go through any more moon energy, So the other thing that I get is that this is pages. Again, these aren't kings. This isn't someone making a grand overture. So I think you are questioning. I think you are doing a little bit of a too good to be true. Now, your future energy is quite interesting because, again, I told you you have major arcana at the root of the situation. So the roots of this manifestation is some big life changes. And you've got the root of it, you got the Page of Wands, you got the Ace, the Knight of Cups, and you got Judgment. So if this is your energy towards someone else, just to put it out there, if you're the person that walked away, maybe in the past you were overwhelmed, possibly by some family programming. Maybe you really did have apprehension about getting in a relationship with someone. And then present energy is that you're going to try to approach this person, but they might be a little bit withdrawn. They might be a little bit like, okay, thanks, or not even replying to your initial. But you and this other person do feel this camaraderie. I do feel like it's someone from your past. Someone that you knew. Someone that makes you feel like a kid. And I'm getting a lot of young energy here. The other thing that I kind of get is it might be that maybe you had to walk away from someone and you kind of have a choice. Like the cup that's being handed to you is to reach out to this person from your past, but because the Three of Cups can be a child, and then the Ace of Cups can be, again, this person's holding one cup, right? So that's the Ace and that's the Ace. But then the Three of Cups is, we talked about it in the Three of Cups, Two of Cups is two people in love. The Three of Cups is a child. Maybe you could be lost in your head. Maybe you want to go back to someone from your past, but you have a child with someone. So it's like you being in limbo and you being depressed about it. But the future energy is the same regardless of the situation. Someone is going to do something impulsive, and it's going to be an expression of love. That knight is going to get on his horse, and I get the strong sense, because with it being the Page, it's going to be like impulsive as hell. Like, it's going to be like you did not wake up in the morning and decide that you were going to go, hop on your horse and offer your cup to someone, but then you often do it. Either that or this person is going to this person from your past, it's going to be when you least expect it. And it's going to be when they just, something puts a fire under them. The other thing is you got Judgment. You've got people popping out of coffins. I'm getting a strong sense. This is someone from your past. This is someone from your past. And again, the Judgment card is the wake-up call. It's the wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey, you know, or, you know, tofu on toast, whatever, however you roll. I think that if someone's approaching you and you're resistant, they're gonna do something impulsive because they're called to. Either that, or if this is you, if in the past you walked away from someone and then they brought you happiness and you've been really thinking about them and you've been resistant because they're gonna do something impulsive. Someone is gonna do something completely on the spur of the moment, and it is gonna be an overture of love. It's gonna be an offer of love, and the universe is totally calling them to do that. The universe is calling them to do that. If this is your energy, you've been seeing symbols. You've been seeing signs. You know that this person that you walked away from, you were very happy with, but whatever, you know, there's going to be an offer. And I'm definitely feeling like it's going to be like really just spur of the moment. Whether you're doing the offering or this person from your past is coming back in. And it's going to be the universe is guiding this. It's like the universe is like either telling you or your other person, you know, the person who's offering the cup, you know, that they got to do something, right? The other thing is that I really think that you thought that this was over. You know, I think that's the other thing. The other thing I kind of get is that you're looking back at this past happiness and wondering if you're ever going to feel that way again. And you're definitely, I think you're in for some real surprise. That's the other thing, is that I think you're in for a real surprise. The other thing is you got miracles. My life is a miracle, right? You got a nest egg there. I think you're going to be really amazed at how this turns out. This is probably going to turn out better than you expect. This is really beautiful energy, guys. This is really, again, I always look at the Page of Wands and think, okay, that's you getting excited to jump out of bed in the morning. I always call it my summer camp energy, where you pop out of bed because you have someplace to go. Either someone is going to approach you. And the other thing is there are mountains in every single one of these cards. So I think this person knows that if they have to approach you again, that it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But they're called to do it. The other thing is that you see people popping out of coffins. Again, you thought that this was over. You thought this was over. And there's mountains. There's challenge. But the other thing I get is that there's going to be challenges that you have to face, but you see how small these mountains are. It looks like you can take one step and step over them, right? I think in the future that, you know, if this is someone from your past, it's going to be easier than you anticipated, but I definitely think this person's coming around with a really heartfelt offer. The other thing that I kind of get is that this person might up the ante if they like approach you and say, hey, do you want to go out for coffee, and you're ignoring them or you don't respond to the text. All of a sudden that's going to be like boosted up to be like, okay, I need to put on my armor, grab my cup, and be like, look, I see you didn't respond to my text, let's go out, right? I think it's gonna push this person to, I'm not advising you at all to do that. I'm not saying use your best judgment, but it might be that situation. Someone might have sent you a gift and maybe you've had a past with this person, and then they up the ante, but it's going to be real impulsive, and it's going to be at a time that you don't expect. But it's definitely divinely driven. You know, you or this other person is being directed to do this. But wow, guys, oh my gosh, that's a good read. That was really, really good. All right, so second card, we've got Anna K. go ahead and see, how does the Four of Cups manifest in your life currently? So past energy, please. Four of Cups. Okay, I'm going to go with the top card. Oh, wow. Okay. Current energy. Okay, future energy. Okay, please clarify the Empress. Oh my gosh, that flipped. That totally... Oh, that didn't just flip, that flew. Oh my god, Judgment. Holy crud, guys. Judgment came in the exact same position last deck. Okay, that's our common denominator. Okay, what's this cup? This cup that's being offered. Strength. Alright. Ooh, very cool, guys. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, you got two majors here, and again, in the past and in the future. And you got the Lovers here, which definitely talks about divine masculine and divine feminine, and you have the divine feminine here with the Empress. So, wow. Now, the root of the past, you got the Lovers, and the root of it is you got the Ten of Rods. So, I think that you've definitely, and again, this is love related. Doesn't surprise me with it being cups. I think in the past that with the Lovers, you either had a marriage or you had a really deep long-term commitment. That was a lot of work. A lot of work. You see this guy cowering in the corner and he's got all the rods and you got the gray clouds, right? I think that you had a past relationship that, and the thing is with it being the root, I think it below the surface, it's almost like everybody looking at you looks like, oh, okay, they're married, they're happy, it's great, it's wonderful, you know, they're soulmates. But underneath it, you just, again, you felt like this cowering person in the corner. It was just, it was like an invasion, right? It was, I think that you did either go through a divorce or some kind of tough relationship that, you know, underneath the surface. I feel like from everybody else's outward perspective, this was great. You know, you were good, you were happy that you would be married forever. But, you know, the other thing I kind of get is that these two guys, the man in the picture and the guy in the Four of Cups, it's, I am getting, you know, I'm getting a strong sense of that. We talked in the intro, when we talked in the how-to part, about how the Four of Cups can be like, you don't know what you're getting into until you're into it, right? And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. No marriage is perfect, right? You know, no spouse is perfect. But you sometimes don't know what you're getting into until you're in the thick of it. And if you got married young, or if you just felt like you didn't have time to really discover yourself, and then you get into this long-term commitment. Now, what I am getting is that we've got the Lovers and we've got the Empress. I'm definitely feeling, and these are, you've got three major arcanas and you got a king in the middle. I can kind of read this a few ways. In the past, I definitely think that, you know, the Lovers is a choice. The Lovers is a choice, but it's quite possible that maybe you did go through a marriage or a major commitment in the past that really kind of opened your eyes to things. It was a lot of work. It was you taking on more challenges. I think that this person, your spouse, and it can be male or female, I think they were very high maintenance. And I think also, I think the other thing is that you might have done that romanticized, well, you meet someone, they ring your bell, and all of a sudden, you jump into marriage commitment, and it just turned out to be a lot more than you bargained for. And so now it's like, when I'm almost getting that sense, like, yes, love is wonderful, but you see how this guy looks like an older kind of, weathered version of this guy. It's almost like, maybe you have been married and divorced, and when you start dating, or when and this can be any sex. If you're a guy watching this can be women too. When you start, you know you I think you're very, I think what it is it's made you very battle worn to the zoom of dating, right? Or, someone else gets around you and you're like, oh yeah, I've felt the endorphins of the lovers before. What you're offering me. The other thing that I kind of get is that, again, you might be numb to it. You might be like withdrawn, like, okay, I'm not getting into this again, right? Once bitten, twice shy is what I'm kind of getting with this. And especially underneath the present energy, you've got the King of Swords, and you see he's kind of playing chess. He's very in his head, right? He analyzes things. And underneath it, you have the Page of Rods. So what we're kind of getting here is, it's quite possible that maybe, I think that you might have a child, or you might have an ex. The other thing that I kind of get from this is that you're really trying really hard to avoid the Zoom, because maybe you've gotten into it in the past where you've gotten hurt, or you've gotten it taken advantage of. Could be financially, could be emotionally. But I really get a strong sense the King of Swords is very guarded emotionally. He does not show his cards to anyone, and he analyzes everything. And here I'm really kind of seeing, like if you got out of a bad relationship that really raked you over, um this is one of two things. It's either you're feeling like, the Page of Rods can be real impulsive. Like, it could be like, ooh, look at her, she's pretty, let me ask for her number and ask her out. But then you clamp down on that energy and be like, okay, hold on, boy, sit your ass down. We're not calling anyone, because remember before, we got into it, and it brought us a whole lot of crap. So here, you might be kind of, again, just kind of in your own head, because that's the other thing. The Four of Cups is in his own head, and it's because of things that he's experienced emotionally in the past, right? So it could be that maybe in the past, you again, same scenario, you really felt something in the past that really kind of was more than it was trumped up to be, and now you're being cautious, even though you're surrounded by, all this abundance, options to date, new men, new women. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm looking at, I'm looking at all of them, they look good, but you best believe I'm not going to take any action until I've thought this through, right? You're going to keep your emotions under lock and key, because you're not going to find yourself, you're never going to allow yourself to be in this position again. The other way that I kind of read it is, it's possible that maybe you are divorced with a child, and your first thought is, okay, what's best not only for me, but for me and my kid? So you might be surrounded by options, but you either don't want to be put in the position that you were before. The other thing that I get is also with the sword, it can mean justice, where it's quite possible that, I think that you've really been hurt in the past, but also it could be legally or financially. I'm not seeing too many pentacles here, but flowers, or these lilies, really do mean experience. So I think that you've learned. The other thing is that this guy is very nicely dressed. So I do think that you have a position of power, or, again, this could involve money in that way. But it's also a matter of providing for someone. Um, but you want to be careful. You're not going to let your juvenile impulses run the show. The other thing I kind of get from this is that it's quite possible that maybe in the past that you did kind of, you didn't look before you leaped, and you allowed yourself to fall in love, however, willy nilly. And now you're either in a position of power because the King of Swords is a king, right? He's an example. It's quite possible that maybe in the past, underneath the surface, because this is the root, maybe underneath the surface you want to be like a child and just exploring, but you don't have the option of that. So what I'm kind of getting here is it's a little bit, not so much temptation, but it's almost like you have to check out in order to not notice it. It's like you have to say, okay, that's not there, remember my past. But I get a strong sense that in the past, relationships were not cracked up as what they were cracked up to be. And so now you're really I feel like you're keeping your heart really in check. Now, the future is beautiful here because I'm kind of seeing one of two things. I'm getting a sense that in the future you really will go for someone who is your match, because I see the Empress here. And again, what I'm kind of seeing here is that the Empress is that woman who is nurturing. She's not just a regular queen. She's the Queen of Queens. She's the Empress, right? I think in the future, if you are a man watching this, you are going to meet the woman that you want to be with, someone who really is going to be your counterpart. The other thing that I kind of get here is that it's quite possible that maybe you did meet someone in the past that you were really in love with, but there was just so much going on in your life that I'm getting a sense of a past relationship here. Now, this could be a current energy. If you are married, I think that maybe, maybe this is a long-term marriage that has survived a lot of challenges, because the 10 is a culmination of a cycle. So maybe in the past, this could be again a little bit of midlife change kind of energy, where you are making plans. Like maybe you're feeling a little disconnected, and maybe your family's noticing. You've really ridden the waves of a lot of change. And I think what it is this could potentially be that you're making plans for the future currently, but you're so in your head about it. It's like you making those plans. You're not really sharing those thoughts with anyone else yet, that your family is noticing, wow, you've been a little bit in your own head. And the other thing I get is that this is either it's like new ideas, something that you're getting excited about, but you're just not really sharing it with anyone else, or you are thinking about a child and you're considering that, and you're just not indulging any other options until you do things your way. Now, the future, you've got the Empress, and the root is Judgment. If you are single, or if this is a past relationship, I do sense that you're gonna find your match. Like you're gonna go, like you're being called towards this person. The other thing that I can read is that if this is your mother or the mother of your children, you're gonna have like things are gonna get better. Because the thing is, I'm seeing a king. In the past, you've got the lovers. In the present, you've got a king and a page. And then in the future, you've got the Empress. And Judgment is about coming back to life. So you could be rejuvenating a relationship. This could be you, kind of writing out some rough times in either a marriage, especially with a child. The other thing that I kind of get is that maybe if you have been feeling kind of meh because you've got a child that's young, and it puts a lot of pressure on a parent. I can only imagine when you've got a little one that you have to care for, especially when they're young. The choices that you make are very important, and sometimes it kind of does get you into that withdrawn energy. It's a little bit of a paradigm shift within your own world and in your own life, and you want to do the right thing. But I do kind of see that moving forward, you know, especially with the lovers, because the lovers is divine masculine, divine feminine. I do see that if this is some kind of separation, or you making some kind of an arrangement with your husband or wife, that things are going to work out. I do think that there's some kind of coming back to life, you know. The other thing is this is real divinely guided, so you know, this can be a reconciliation with a spouse. I really get the feeling between a woman and a man. Or um, what could be happening if this was a past relationship that you have a child from, because the King of Swords is also about doing his duty, right? We talked about that, about, you know, sometimes ignoring other options, or you could just be feeling real withdrawn because you're cerebral, right? You're doing your duty, right? But in the future, this judgment is a call, right? It's a call to someone. So this could either be a new relationship that really is your divine counterpart, and that's the other thing is with the chess, that might be what you're strategizing to do. You know, you might be moving forward with your life, and you're being real careful about, you know, especially if you have a child, you know, who you want to be the mother of your child moving forward, or who you want to bring into your life. Otherwise, I do think that it might have been a little bit of a rough patch with a relationship, and things are going to get easier. There's going to be a rejuvenation, and but it definitely feels like, if you're a woman watching this, it could be that you know, a love relationship where your spouse or your man is being real distant and he's not speaking much, and it's because he's really up in his head. He's making plans, right? And it's almost like this person has impulsive impulses, but they're reining them in because they have plans. And then in the future, they could be planning to make you their empress, right? Judgment is really coming out of the dark. I do always think of that Gloria Estefan song, you know, coming out of the dark. I can finally see the light now. So it could quite be, this could be a little bit of separation energy. Maybe you had a really strong connection with someone, but it was not the right time. You know, it was a little burdensome. And then this person really pulled away, and you feel like, you know, they're not being responsive, but what it is that they're planning and being real cerebral. And then in the future, this Empress energy is about really, you know, again, you know, about abundance and nurturing. Um, One last way I can read it is, if you are a woman watching this, it's possible in the past that, you know, you have, you know, had a lot of connections, really good love relationships, but they were just, they really took their toll on you. And then, you know, presently you can be a woman in the King of Swords energy, and what it just means is that, you know, you seem a little withdrawn, you seem a little distant, you might feel a little, again, apathetic, but you've got plans, you're really in your head, and behind those plans is a lot of really spirited, you know, childlike energy, really good start energy, what you love to do, what brings you joy. The other thing is, you might be really thinking, okay, what brings me joy? Let me return to that. And then in the future, this can be complete singleton energy, but you know, you're a calling. Judgment is really the universe calling you to come back to life, right? So again, if this was like a tough relationship that was just took too much out of you, you've pulled away, withdrawn, and you might have a lot of activity around you right now, but you're thinking about what really brings you joy, and you're making plans, and then in the future you're going to be in your Empress energy. I also get the sense that whether you're with somebody or not with someone, you can nurture others. And you know, there's an angel here, and you see a woman coming out of the dark. You know, this could quite honestly be your energy. You know, you don't need to be married or a mother to be the empress. You can nurture the world. You can nurture the world with your talents, with your skills, you know, with what you do, with what you contribute. And your oracle card, so that cup that's being offered to you is strength. And look at this, it says, I have a deep inner strength, and glorious vitality. And look at this, guys. I really think this is the universe calling you back to life again. I think you have a role of being a mother to the world. Either that or, if this is two people, you are going to get everything that you need. Just, be strong. This is divine guidance. Divine guidance is judgment. And you will end up the Empress, right? Your future energy is glorious, guys. This is so glorious. It's almost like stay strong, do your thing. If you're feeling withdrawn, go with that energy, see where it takes you, make your plans, but, follow what brings you joy, and your future looks really, really bright here, guys. Judgment can really be a calling about what you do for the world, too, and you have the world here. In the future, your strength might uplift the world, is what I'm kind of feeling, you might do something that's nurturing to others on a grand scale. But this is a really beautiful energy, guys. Wow. So that's how the Four of Cups is manifesting in your life. That's really beautiful. Your future energy is amazing. All right. So last but not least, we have the Tarot, Deck 3, Tarot of the Divine. Let's go ahead and see. How does the Four of Cups manifest in your life? Ooh. Do I have a card that flipped? Wow. Okay, that was flipped over. Present energy. Oh my gosh. Future energy. Oh, we have all sorts of flipping energy here today. Oh gosh, guys. Okay. Ace of Coins, Queen of Cups. Okay, I'm going to take that into consideration. Now, this cup that's being offered to you. Alright, you kind of had two cards flip out. And we're going to take both of them because we had two tens. So we're going to take both of them. Alright. Oh my gosh, guys, you got 3 tens. Oh my gosh. This is a culmination of a cycle for off the chart. I'm sorry, this deck, all of tarot decks have 78 cards, and you got 3 tens. 3 tens. Whoa. Just kind of say again, whoa. In the past, you got the Knight of Swords. So in the past, I get the sense that you've been very verbal. Like I get the sense that you have no filter. You just like the Emperor, and we talked about that in the intro and the How to Tarot part. This is the Emperor, this is the Hans Christian Andersen story of the Nightingale, and it talked about an emperor who wanted to live forever. It talked about an emperor, and what he would do is he paid his jewelers to create. There's a nightingale. There's a magical nightingale that when the nightingale sings, it's like the elixir of life. It keeps you alive. And what I see here is that he's got 3 nightingales that are like gilded in gold that were created by his jewelers, right? That sing this nightingale song. But the real nightingale is sitting outside of his window. So what I'm getting here, wow, this is some interesting energy here, guys. Okay, I'm gonna keep it real because I don't sugarcoat my readings. So please, I have a little bit of a trigger warning. I don't want anyone to get upset about this. This is not bad energy, but it just is what it is, and there are 3 tens here. So I'm getting a drink of water. Past energy, you got the Knight of Swords. And the Knight of Swords, we had a tarot on this. So Knight of Swords is the let me tell you something card, right? It's someone racing in. And again, this is a younger person. This is not a king or a queen. This is a knight who's usually in his early 20s. In the past, I think you were very verbal. I am getting a sense that you might be masculine watching this read. You can be a feminine in this energy, absolutely. But I just think in the past that you were very, you know your own mind, and you were very quick to say what you think, what you believe, right? The other thing is that I think that you might have made a few fast decisions that were really based more on reason than they were on emotion. Because the current energy we have cups, but the future energy we have wands and swords, right? And we have the swords are kind of like the bookends here. But in the past, I think you were quick to make decisions. The other thing that I kind of get is I think that you might have I think you might have rushed in a little bit without knowing all the facts, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. You know, sometimes we're like that, especially when you're in your early 20s. So I just get this sense like maybe in the past, maybe you were quick. You know, you were quick. The other thing that I get is that it's quite possible that you made decisions based on your beliefs, right? Because swords are about thoughts and what's the word I'm looking for? Beliefs, right? They're about what you mentally, what you psychologically know to be true, right? Because swords is about truth. But I do get the sense that, you know, the Knight of Swords can be that person that rushes in to fight a fight because he's a knight, rushes in to fight a fight, but he doesn't have the experience the way a king or queen would, and he's not about it's not about diplomacy or tact. And that's not a bad thing. You know, you speak your truth, but it's quite possible that maybe in the past you were real quick to rush in or take action based on what you believe to be true. The other thing is that really plays into the story of the emperor, because remember the real nightingale was a real bird, but the emperor really thought that he could recreate that magic, but with, you know, with gilded birds, right? And remember, the Three of Cups is about, you know, the Three of Cups is about, you know, being casual in relationships. It's about joy and celebration, but it is about like having your options open too, right? And underneath that energy, so in the past, I think you were I'm getting a strong sense, and this is not a bad thing, male or female, you were very opinionated. You know your own mind, but you may not have had all the facts. There's a lot of times that I also get to think, I think this might pertain to relationships, and the fact that you would be like, well, you know, I'm not, I, I think of it, I think of this energy like when you're filling out one of those dating profiles. Like if you're on one of the dating sites and they're like, "Oh, so would you ever date someone who hasn't been to college?" No, they have to be college educated. You know, so it's almost like that. It's like you being kind of like, "Well, they have to be ABCD this," or, you know, I know this to be true and this is what, you know. So it's really you're and again with the emperor, he's not taking into consideration the simple cup. He wants the gilded cups, right? He paid his jewelers to recreate the nightingale, but the nightingale is a real simple living authentic thing, right? So I am getting a sense, and this could be your person or this could be you. If it's your person, what might have happened is this person might have rushed in the past. They might have had a lot of belief systems that were really ingrained, or you have belief systems that are ingrained of what it is that makes you happy. And the present energy, and this is interesting because you look at the emperor, he's looking down at um, his golden nightingales, and he looks content, right? He looks content. But the real bird that he's been looking for is right behind him, and he doesn't even notice it. He just notices the gilded, pretty birds that he paid to have made. Um, and underneath it, you got the Ten of Cups. And what's interesting about this Ten of Cups is clearly it shows two families. It shows the Mer people, and then it shows the Indian prince. And underneath it, you've got the Six of Wands. So what I'm really getting is I'm getting two family dynamics here. Um and I'm getting a strong sense that, and please don't shoot the messenger. I'm seeing a very clear I'm seeing a very clear story here. I think that you had it from a young age, because this is like an early 20s person. I think you had it from a young age what you were looking for, like the good on paper person. Like they must check the boxes. They must be a doctor, a lawyer. There's a cute video. I'll try to post it. It's so funny. There's this girl who plays the piano, and her father, he playfully, it's completely joking. He interrupts her music sessions by kind of playfully heckling her. And there's one session where she's singing the song, like, I forget what song she was singing, but he's like, no, you should not date don't date a poet. Tell him to come back with a PhD, not in music, in a real degree. It was a hysterical video. It had me laughing. I was crying. It was so funny. But I kind of get that energy, like you're like either programmed from your, and I'm getting a strong sense of like all of these stories are really look entrenched with like religion or philosophy that might be family based. You were just like kind of programmed to know what to look for. And I get this strong sense like maybe you were racing in, like, okay, if you don't check my box, if you're not of this background, if you don't make this money, if you don't have a college degree, I can't date you, or this is what I want, this is what I want. And again, the Knight of Swords, he's factual, but he doesn't, he's a little brusque. He's lacking tact in the fact that he just rushes in. And I think in the past you were just a little too quick. It was a little cutting. And and again, with this emperor, what he's been looking for is right behind him, and it's the real thing. It's a clay cup. It's not a gold cup. But he's preoccupied with creating. I think you wanted to create what you wanted. You, based on your belief systems, you wanted to create what you wanted. And energy follows thought. You can follow. Remember, the emperor spent his life trying to recreate the nightingale, and it wasn't until the end of his life that the real nightingale came in to save him. So, what I'm kind of seeing here is it's quite possible that the present energy is that you're preoccupied, you're happy. You got the Six of Wands and you got the Ten of Cups. You feel content with the gilded nightingale, right? I either think that this could be a relationship, or it could quite honestly be a marriage. The other thing that I'm kind of getting is this marriage might be someone who's a completely different background, but whatever you perceive takes precedence. If you believe them to be the right person, then just like this emperor said, okay, these golden nightingales, these synthetic, created nightingales are going to do the same thing that the real nightingale's going to do, right? So it's quite possible that in the past, you really did. I'm getting the sense that you had some very staunch beliefs about what you were looking for, what you wanted. And presently, you created that either by visualization or, I'm getting a strong sense like, okay, I'm going to marry someone who's blonde, only blonde. I was watching some video on YouTube that talked about Elon Musk and how he, you have to be, you must, all of his wives have to be blonde, and his current wife has like black hair, and she's like bleached her hair and turned it blonde because that's his requirement, right? It's a little weird to me, but it is almost kind of like that. Like, you're the emperor, right? You've gone from the knight to the emperor, and I really get the sense that you've had these belief systems ingrained in you since you were like in your 20s. And I think you found someone. But one thing, the Ten of Cups is happiness, right? And we talk about the Four of Cups about being that. It's interesting because in this deck, the four is usually discontent. But here, I'm getting a strong sense that you're like distracted. It is about distraction too. I think you're distracted with something that's very glittery and pretty that you think is your 10. you know, and you feel victorious. The other thing that I kind of get is that there might, with the Six of Swords, it's like everybody's looking at you. Look at how much grandeur is here. Everybody's wearing crowns in this picture. I get the sense that, you know, you created what you were looking for. You created what you were looking for. But I am getting a sense like the true happiness might be more simple than what you manufactured. And I am going to come out and say it. Please don't shoot the messenger, because this isn't a bad thing. But I almost think, you know how there's a saying in weddings, they always say the bigger the wedding, the less secure the marriage. Sometimes the real simple weddings are the sign of a really strong marriage, because you don't care if you marry that person in a barn, right? There's a little bit, and unfortunately it's a sad statistic, but there's a little bit of, if you can Google it, there's a statistic that said the more you spend on your money, the less chances it's going to last, because it's more about the grandeur of it. It's more about how it looks than what it really is. And the fact that I see two different backgrounds here, and it's not that two opposites can't attract, or that two backgrounds can't, be happy, but this is also a Hans Christian Andersen story, and the Hans Christian Andersen really did write the original Little Mermaid, but the original Little Mermaid, the mermaid did not end up with the prince. The prince ended up with another human, and she ended up being the spirit of the sea. It was a little bit of a martyr's tale. But I do get the sense that the present energy, the Four of Cups might be that the universe really is offering you the real deal, but you're preoccupied with something else that you feel is bringing you happiness. The other thing that I get is that it might not be marriage, it might not be as extreme of that, but it makes you look good. And the Ten of Cups is happiness. It's that emotional happiness, but sometimes the Ten of Cups can be just that temporary high. But whatever this is, I think it gives you. The other thing that I'm kind of getting is that it gives you prestige. Like whatever it is that these gilded cups that you're preoccupied with, you feel like it's your happiness, and it makes you look good, right? It makes you look like the winner. And what I'm kind of getting, and especially with this being a knight and this being kind of like the warrior coming back from battle, it's almost like, like you're showing off to the world, look, I got what I was looking for, right? Because that's what the emperor was doing, right? He wanted the nightingale, so what did he do? He created a nightingale. Was it the real one? No, but he felt like it was the real one. It was made of gold, it had rubies for eyes, it sang a song, right? Now, the future energy, and we read cards as they're around, and we're also going to look at the oracle cards. So don't take this too literally. We read it. There are no bad cards in tarot. But the I always see, when I see three cards, I think of the root, the stem, and the bloom. And the root is the King of Wands. And the King of Wands in this is a phoenix. It's a firebird. And he also has peacock feathers, right? So this is important. We're going to remember this as we go along. But the stem energy, you got the King of Wands, the Ten of Wands. And the Ten of Wands is a little bit of a gruesome looking card, but what it talks about is, it talks about how, just like with the Ten of Wands being like a burden, kind of like you taking on more work than you're supposed to. The Ten of Wands in this deck talks about the kind of work that you won't live to see. And not to be morbid, but it's kind of like saying, okay, is this work worth it? Is this how you want to expend your energy, right? Right? Just like the Emperor, okay, do you want to spend your whole life creating golden nightingales, or do you want to actually look for the real one, right? It's about, okay. I always say, if you watch the flip through for this deck, I mentioned, and again, not to be morbid, if you've ever Googled the top 10 regrets that people have on their deathbed, one of the top 5 is that they didn't spend more time with their family. The other thing that the other big regret is that they did not live life according to what they wanted versus what the other people expected of them, right? So that's kind of like the Ten of Wands here. It's like, okay, am I wasting my life, right? Am I just chasing my tail, right? Um, and then the Crown or the Bloom energy is you got the Ten of Swords. So unfortunately, and I don't want you to be afraid. There's no bad cards in tarot, but you have 3 10s. This is a culmination of a cycle. And the fact that the root of this is the phoenix, it's the firebird, it just means transformation, guys. It just means that the experiences that you had, and believe me, we're all on this road, right? It just means that you might have rushed into something. You might have rushed into something thinking that was going to be your happiness. The other thing is, I thought you really, really thought, I can create based on what I think to be true. I can create what I want. It's going to be everything that I want. It's going to check all the boxes, right? And as you were experiencing it, it did check all the boxes. But it's almost like you were distracted with this. You went for, again, all that glitters, right? You went for the recognition. Maybe it's quite possible that you did date someone for the stature that they were going to give you, right? Maybe you married someone who was good on paper. Or the other thing I kind of get is that maybe you took a job, maybe you very quickly took a job and you thought, okay, this is going to bring happiness. And the other thing I get is that it did give you momentary happiness, right? You felt like you exuding energy, creating the fake nightingales did bring you temporary happiness. The other thing is that I kind of get a strong sense of that. They talk about in psychology, they talk about when you shop or when you buy things, it gives you that boost of endorphins. And the fact that he has 3 nightingales, it's almost like you created one and you thought, okay, let me create another one. Okay, let me create another one. And it's like you're doing that to sustain your happiness. You're chasing, based on what you believe, you're chasing what gives you recognition and that's giving you that high. But it's not the real bird, right? It's not the real happiness. It's you emulating it, you creating it according to. The other thing, I get a strong sense of control here, right? It's the emperor calls the shots. And the other thing is there is an emperor in the tarot, right? Now, the future energy is that you go from being a Knight of Swords to a King of Wands. And, I think in the future you realize that, again, the other thing is the Four of Cups. I think you might be looking at past happiness and you're really analyzing it and saying, okay, did this really make me happy? Again, Ten of Wands, like, okay, on my deathbed, is this how I want to say that I spent my life, right? Did it really give me the happiness that I thought it did? And remember, the real nightingale comes to the emperor when he's on his deathbed. And then, not to sound morbid, but the other thing is that the Ten of Swords is really about, like, it is about sabotage. It is about being stabbed in the back. But in this card, it's really about continually try to do something and then not not giving you what you need it to, right? The other thing that this card in particular, and this is a tough card. This is one of the more gory cards in this deck. I would not recommend this deck for a young reader. But it is also talking about betrayal in the sense that this could either be self-betrayal, either that, or in this story, the emperor, because no one disagrees with the emperor, right? If the emperor says, hey, I want something, just like those celebrities, right? No one is going to tell a rich celebrity says, hey, I want you to, wrap my Porsche in bright neon pink, and no one's going to say, well, that looks ugly as hell. Why are you going to spend money on that? Everyone's going to nod their head and say, okay, sure, pay me money and I'll wrap your car in pink. It's almost like you get to after you've kind of gone through this disillusion, right? You know, everybody, you finally realize how, I think it's like realizing that this, no one was really on your side with this. They were just following you because you were adamant about what you wanted. And but the beautiful thing about this is that, again, with it being tens, tens are a culmination of a cycle. And the phoenix is about regeneration. You might have Scorpio in your chart. The other thing is, with those peacock feathers, you really discover your sense of self. You got a sun here. It's like the root of this situation is you realizing, and remember, the emperor didn't realize until the end of his life that all that energy he expended into creating this was, he thought it was happiness, but it was not the real thing. So what this is kind of telling you is that, the other thing that I get is that this is not really like, this is not indicating end of life, right? It's almost like telling you that your experiences and your choices are what develop your character, and you can most definitely learn from that, right? If you felt like, again, you know, if you felt like people were being bobbleheads, like, the other thing is that I get a strong sense of you being very insistent about what you wanted. So the other thing is that you can't, you know, you can't really blame other people for going along with what you said you wanted, right? Because you thought that's what you wanted. But looking back, you realize that the other thing that I kind of get is that I get a sense that the Ten of Swords, I'm really getting a strong sense that maybe people got what they wanted from you by playing off your wants, right? You know, they're like, oh yeah, here, let me give you a golden nightingale. And then you went along with it because you're a strong-minded person. It's almost like you feel, because this is swords and this is swords, it's almost like you feel like someone took advantage of your perception of the situation, and had you laboring, you know, to their cause, you know. But you learn from it, and the other thing is you mature through those experiences. You matured through taking on more than you could chew, and you know, having, and the Ten of Swords is not a pretty card. It is someone taking advantage, or you feeling really painfully defeated by something. But the beautiful thing about the Ten of Swords is that you're not going to experience any more pain from that source. And it is an opportunity for learning, right? You go from a knight to being a king, and you can. The other thing that I get is one really great quote that I've always read about Scorpios, and it was through Linda Goodman's book. If you read The Ascendant in Scorpio, I have an ascendant in Scorpio. It says, you know, the Scorpio woman, or, you know, Scorpio man, they'll mumble curses about your grave, and then they'll rise again. You will rise again, right? You'll rise again. The other thing I kind of get is that maybe you felt like you look foolish. Maybe you did the parading around, like, look at me, I've got golden heaven, you know, nightingales. And then later you realize, you look back on it and you're like, okay, that was false happiness, but yet I paraded around, and, you know, it wasn't the real thing. Um, but this has developed your true ego. It's developed your true sense of self, and you will. The phoenix, the king is a king, right? The other thing is the king learns from, you know, this is the Six of Wands, and this is the King of Wands. So it's like saying, okay, I've learned from all of those experiences, right? And the Emperor and the Nightingale learns. Now, the cup that's being offered to you, the cup that has the Nightingale, you actually got two cards here. So you got inspiration. I am receiving, or got divine inspiration now. And voyage. I am safe and loved no matter where I am. So I think this was really important for your journey, guys. You know, it was important for your journey. The only way that you would develop into being the King of Wands, or to being a king, is by going through, you know, it's not you being foolish. It's not. The other thing that I kind of get is that maybe, you know, again, maybe some experiences that you did for recognition, you know, you're starting to realize that it costs more, right? And you were laboring towards something that wasn't real. But the and also the wands is about action, right? So it's never too late to take action. Once the 10 is complete, you can start again with the ace, right? The other thing is inspiration. You see someone who's at the top of the mountain, right? They're looking, their scope, you've scaled your obstacle, right? And the other thing is that voyage really talks about going on a journey, right? You would not have the knowledge that you have. You would not be a king without having gone through all this. And you could be a man or a woman in this energy, right? So, you know, don't be hard on yourself if there was any betrayal in this, or if you felt like you were taken advantage of, or maybe you feel foolish, or, you know, like again, like, you know, you were chasing I'm hearing that song from TLC, Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls, you know, but sometimes chasing those waterfalls are the journey that you have to go on to teach you the lessons, right? And again, you've got 3 10s here. You definitely, you've completed the cycle. You've completed the cycle. And the other thing is that at the end of the story, the nightingale does sing, and the emperor, you know, comes back to life. So that's you know, and with the phoenix here, that's really great. That's really great. Maybe you have inspiration on how you're gonna rise again. So, wow, guys. Oh my gosh, that was a powerful read. I think this is probably the longest How to Tarot ever. I'm sorry, I try not to make them so long, but this was really deep. But I thank you so much for joining me. I hope you can join me again on Saturday. We're going to be doing the weekly energy card reading. And then very soon we are going to be doing another deck review. We're going to be talking about the Lenormand and Gypsy Oracle decks. So I hope I can catch you in those videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.